Boxing truth here. Manny Pacquiao would still mop the floor of Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia. Even at this advanced stage of his career, 38 years old going on 39, in the next flyweight, I would still pick Pacquiao to whip both Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia ain't no threat to Manny Pacquiao for damn sure. He was offered the fight just last year. He turned it down because Heyman told him to fight Keith Thurman. He told him to turn it down. He knew it well in advance that he was going to fight Keith Thurman. And you know what Danny Garcia did? He turned down a career high payday to take an in-house fight. Well, first, he took a tune-up fight. He could have fought Keith Thurman last year. Instead of waiting for March of this year, he could have fought him last year, but opted for a tune-up. Thurman was ready. He was willing to go last year. He wanted the Danny Garcia fight, but Garcia wanted the tune-up. And that right there Garcia pretty much just lost the psychological warfare right there by opting for a tune-up instead of going straight to Keith Thurman. That pretty much just sends the message to the enemy that you're not ready. And Danny Garcia was never going to be ready to beat Keith Thurman, which is why he lost this past weekend. But Timothy Bradley ain't bullshitting. He knows what time it is. He spent 36 rounds in the ring with Manny Pacquiao. And he felt, for what he saw last weekend between Thurman and Garcia, that it's not enough to defeat an aging Manny Pacquiao. But of course, a lot of PBC fanboys were extremely butthurt that Bradley made those statements. But I agree with Timothy Bradley, man. I did not see anything last weekend that made me convinced that those guys had enough to beat a Manny Pacquiao, even at this stage of Manny Pacquiao's career. But Thurman, he disappointed me, man. I was hoping for a statement-like performance, a knockout, the type of performance he was displaying early in his career, like against Diego Chavez and the Soto Karass fight. But he came out with a strong start, hurt Danny and buzzed him in the early rounds, and then it just never really picked up after that. But he clearly won the fight. Outboxed him, outpointed him, landed the better shots, and he had an easier time with Danny Garcia, in my opinion at least, than he did against Sean Porter, because he had so many advantages over Danny Garcia. He pretty much had every advantage. He was faster, stronger, and the bigger puncher. Against Porter, he was faster and the bigger puncher, but he wasn't stronger than Sean Porter. Sean Porter had the physical strength advantage in that fight, which is why the fight was more tougher for Keith Thurman in that fight, because he had to deal with a strength disadvantage, as Porter's a more naturally bigger guy. Fought at 65 in the amateurs. Thurman fought at 152 pounds. But Thurman didn't wow me in that fight. It was overall a little disappointing. The fight didn't really live up to its billing in terms of action and drama. And Thurman, I just don't see right now that he could beat a Manny Pacquiao, even at this stage of Manny's career. But it's a good fight. It's a fight people want to see. It's a fight I would like to see. I would like to see Keith Thurman prove me wrong. If he can go out there and defeat a legend like Manny Pacquiao. Because that's when we're really going to truly find out what Keith Thurman is made of. But Thurman ain't trying to fight Manny Pacquiao. He's not really pushing for that fight. He has yet to ask for that fight from his manager. He's asked for other guys. He's asked for guys within the PBC. But he hasn't asked for a Manny Pacquiao fight. But it's like Bob Arum told the media months back. If Thurman wants to fight Manny Pacquiao, all he has to do is call his manager and ask his manager that he wants to fight Manny Pacquiao. But Thurman has yet to do that. He called out Manny Pacquiao last year and disappeared because he already knew the Garcia fight was going to be next. He's never made any serious pursuit of fighting Manny Pacquiao. Now, both sides haven't made any strong pursuits of making the fight. Bob Arum, he hasn't really tried to make the fight. Al Heyman, he hasn't tried to make the fight. Both guys, both entities have been keeping it in-house with their respective clients. Look at Thurman's last 4 fights. What is the common theme? They're all in-house fights. He's fought only PBC guys. Manny Pacquiao, different story. He fought Mayweather. That wasn't an in-house fight. He fought Algieri. That wasn't an in-house fight. So 2 of his last 4 opponents were not in-house fights. His last 2 fights, yes, there were in-house fights. But there were more. It was a Timothy Bradley, who's a more established guy at welterweight than who Thurman beat in his last 2 fights. It's amazing that Keith Thurman has been able to become a unified champion, get at this stage in his career without developing a jab. The guy has no fucking jab, but yet he's a unified champion. But when you look at his run, who's exactly has he beat? Sean Porter, a contender who was not a champion at the time, and it's pretty much 50-50 down the middle on who people feel won that fight. And he beat an unproven welterweight in Danny Garcia, who didn't accomplish nothing at the weight. His signature win is a recycled Robert Guerrero, a former featherweight who hadn't done shit in the welterweight division besides lose to name guys and beat up Andre Berto. That's his claim to being a top welter. Being recycled for Heyman clients, losing to Mayweather. But that was Danny Garcia's run in the division. So, Thurman still has a lot more to prove. He still needs to get that statement win. He hasn't had it yet. He had a close fight with Porter. I felt he won. Felt he landed the better shots. Had the more significant shots in the fight. Thought he outboxed Danny Garcia, but it was what it was. It wasn't really impressive. And I didn't come away from that fight thinking that Thurman has a great chance to beat Manny Pacquiao. He has a chance, but I don't think he has the best chance in the division. To me, the biggest threat to Manny Pacquiao is not Keith Thurman. It's not Danny Garcia, but it's the Brooks Spence winner. The winner of that fight is the biggest threat to Manny Pacquiao's throne in the welterweight division. Because those guys are much naturally bigger. They bring a lot of size and physicality that would make it tough on Manny Pacquiao because those guys are so much naturally bigger than him. Pacquiao would be giving up a lot of size and weight if he fought those 2 guys. And those fights would be very tough for him, no doubt. That's why I feel the winner of that fight is the biggest threat to Manny Pacquiao's throne in the welterweight division. But Keith Thurman, he doesn't have that same size advantage over Pacquiao. He's a small welterweight. He's a natural welterweight, but he's not a big welterweight. He's only 5'7.5", only an inch taller than Pacquiao. And remember, Pacquiao has no problems with height and reach. He knows how to close the distance. He's the best at closing the distance. And I've been more impressed with Manny's performances his last 2 fights than compared to Thurman's. Thurman has shown some flashes, but he hasn't been consistent overall in his performances. Pacquiao has been dominant. He's been hurting guys, knocking them down, dominating top-level fighters. Didn't lose a round, I felt, in the Jesse Vargas fight. Hurt him multiple times, knocked him down. Was robbed of a knockdown in that fight as well. Hurt Mayweather multiple times in their fight. Mayweather felt the power, got hurt really bad in the fight against Pacquiao. Felt he beat him. But of course, whatever. He didn't get the decision. But everybody in the world knows Pacquiao won. Only the United States and the UK feel that Mayweather won. But because they were brainwashed into thinking Floyd Mayweather actually won that fight. This is why I have a different perspective on Manny Pacquiao than a lot of people in the United States or in the UK, because they feel Pacquiao was dominated. I felt Pacquiao beat Mayweather and beat him pretty clearly, definitively. But Manny Pacquiao will never get credit for that. But it's all good because I know what I saw. And Manny Pacquiao right now is the uncrowned king in the welterweight division. Ring Magazine hates Manny Pacquiao. Fuck them. They'll never rate him number one. But we all know Manny Pacquiao is the true king of the welterweight division. He's been the king all along. He's still the best fighter in the world in my eyes until somebody beats him. Manny Pacquiao hasn't lost since he got iced by Juan Manuel Marquez, in my opinion. He's been on a run. He's been dominant. The way he gets iced and just comes back and whoops your ass the next day. That's so impressive, man. Never seen anything like it. You can just be chin checked and then he just comes back the next day and just wins a title or beats a pound for pound level fighter. Not many fighters can do that. Hardly any fighters can do that. What Manny Pacquiao has accomplished, getting knocked out 3 times and always bouncing back even stronger after those knockout losses. Manny Pacquiao is truly something special. And I don't see anything from what I saw last weekend that convinces me that Thurman has this great chance to beat Pacquiao. I feel the Brooke Spence winner has a better chance to beat Pacquiao. And Pacquiao's not shying away from that fight. He's not shying away from a Kell Brook fight. He included his name in the poll he released on his Twitter account. He included his name. The fans went for Amir Khan for whatever reason. He tried to make the Amir Khan fight. And the money didn't show up. But who knows what the fuck is going on with Manny Pacquiao's next fight. I'm not going to guess. I'm not going to make a prediction of who he's going to fight. I really have no idea. But Bob Arum, he's looking out for the best interest of Top Rank. I feel his plan is that he's going to try to keep it in-house with Pacquiao until Lomachenko and Crawford are ready to take the torch from him. And Pacquiao, he's trying to fight a more established name. He's trying to fight a bigger fight because the Horn fight doesn't really bring the type of money that other opponents could bring. Potential opponents that he included in his poll. But I feel Pacquiao would fight Kell Brook, especially if he beats Errol Spence. The fight's been talked about. There have been discussions between Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum for perhaps Pacquiao going to the UK to fight Brook, since that's where the fight would make the most sense, since the market's pretty dry in the US right now. And I said in my last video about Pacquiao, I hope Pacquiao fights Brook, because that would prove how great of a fighter he is, to beat a much naturally bigger fighter in Kell Brook. And I still feel Pacquiao could beat Kell Brook. I think Brook's the second best welterweight in the world. But I still probably would pick Pacquiao to beat him. Brook will have trouble with Pacquiao's movement, his footwork, and also his straight left hand, since Brook is open down the middle, down the pipe. Be a tough fight for both guys, but I still would pick Pacquiao to beat a Kell Brook. I will pick him over anybody. You got to show me that you can beat Manny Pacquiao. But both guys are keeping it in-house right now. Heyman's keeping it in-house with Thurman. This so-called truce between Arum and Heyman, it's just smoke and mirrors. I mean, what big fight have they made since Mayweather-Pacquiao between their big clients? They haven't made any. Because Heyman he's giving cannon fodder to some top-ranked clients like Molina against Crawford. That's the so-called truths. Until I see Heyman giving up Broner to a Crawford, or giving up Leo Santa Cruz to fight at Oscar Valdez, or a James DeGale fighting a Zerto Ramirez, This so-called truce is so far as has been smoke and mirrors. But the thing is, Pacquiao has tried to make fights outside of the top-ranked HBO universe. He's tried to make fights with Al Haymon clients. Danny Garcia was offered to fight, turned it down. Broner was offered to fight, turned it down. He tried to make a fight with Amir Khan. All of these guys are Al Haymon clients. Thurman, look at his last 4 fights. All in-house fights. All of them PBC guys. When are you going to ask for the Manny Pacquiao fight, Keith Thurman? You've asked for guys within the PBC stable, but I don't think you've ever asked Haymon for a Manny Pacquiao fight. You don't seem interested in the Manny Pacquiao fight, bro. You've been disrespecting him, saying he's an afterthought. Well, he's an afterthought. Why don't you go fight him? Why don't you try to make the fight? Why don't you ask your manager that you want the fight? See if they can make it happen. But for whatever reason, this fight between Manny Pacquiao and Keith Thurman, for some reason, a lot of people are not beating the drums for him. A lot of reporters are not asking that question to Thurman, to Bob. It just seems like the fight is not even possible to be made, or it just can't be made, or people are just not interested in trying to make it. But from what I saw last weekend, Manny Pacquiao will still mop the floor at Keith one-time Thurman. But Thurman, come prove me wrong, bro. Ask for the Manny Pacquiao fight. But most likely you're going to keep it in-house, as you've done in your past 4 fights. It is what it is. We'll see what Manny Pacquiao's next opponent is. And Keith one-time Thurman is going to stay fighting PBC guys. And if Brooks beats Errol Spence, I really doubt Heyman's going to match Thurman with Kell Brook. There's a better chance of Manny Pacquiao fighting Kell Brook than Keith one-time Thurman. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.